Hi everyone. I hope everyone are safe. Today's topic is all about how do we prepare for Azure 104. Now, when I say how do we prepare for 104, first things, there would be candidates who are looking to get into Azure cloud, probably because they are into entirely different stream of industry, or they would like to, they're already into the IT industry, but they would like to get into cloud. Or they would be candidates who are already into AWS cloud or a GCP cloud or Oracle cloud, but they wanted to pursue this or learn Azure. Now, in such case, based on the need of the hour, where your goal, your aim is, based on that, your preparation style would be changing. Now, if you see Azure 104, I differentiated this preparation into four types because I myself have prepared in this four different styles, and that's what I'm bringing down in this video. Now, the first thing which I brought down here is Azure 104 interview. How do we crack an interview? So, if you'd like to perform well in your interview and all that, so how would your preparation style would go? That's completely different from how you pursue your certification, and that's completely different from how do you pursue while you're trying to gather the conceptual knowledge in 104. And it is also quite different from the practical implementation knowledge you'd like to get from while you're preparing for Azure 104. Now, if I say how do I prepare for an interview? Uh, some primary things is first things everyone will go for Google search. They will be looking for questions on Azure interview questions, Azure administration, and definitely you would be finding a lot of things. But let's just do that. Azure interview questions. There you go. You found many links for that. So what I could say is when you are actually going and attending an interview, in 10 interviews, there would be interviewers who would be opening Google, and based on that, they would be answering. So there is a very quite less chance that this is the same questions you can expect from it. Okay. So preparing this interview questions will just give you it will gain you confidence, and you preparing these interview questions beforehand and going to interview will when they ask like what do you know in a short, can you just tell me what all concepts are you aware of it? Now you whatever you have learned from interview point of view, you can talk about that. That is how it's pretty much mostly useful. But I didn't see the same questions are being called out in the interview. Then so I would say this is a good one to only to just build your confidence, but what is the next best solution which you can actually go for? Or I would prefer, or I suggest many of my students or many of my colleagues who are pursuing is how do you, when you study some concept like you're learning about Azure App Service, now what are the features which are there? Now, when you try to initially uh, get to know about Azure App Service, the way you're trying to see is to understand what are the features and how are these features are being provided by Azure. But that's not the interview preparation. The interview preparation should be how you can talk about these features. So I would say that's the most important thing which you can go for. Okay, you need to prepare how you can talk about it. Initially, when I give this kind of video, I'll have initially a plan for the first 10 minutes before I starting off this video. What is the content which I can bring down here, and how what should be addressed first and everything. The similar fashion, it's not about here about learning about Azure's app service or something. It's about what are the features, how you can talk about those. And you can I need to talk in such a way that you know about these things or you know about these concepts, or if you have tried this POC implementation of so and so, how you can portray that in 5 minutes, 2 minutes, okay, where in your content of your delivery of 2 minutes or 5 minutes, you're able to cover the five features or four features which are primarily important. The next thing which I'll also suggest here is how what kind of services are you aware of? So when we say what kind of services are you aware of, it's about is it IaaS or a PaaS? Now there are many infrastructure as a service. There are many platform as a service in Azure, like in infrastructure as a service is virtual machine storage account networking solutions, and PaaS offerings you would be getting database, container as a service, a function as a service, and what do you say, these networking solutions like application gateway. All these are platform as a service. Now you need to talk something very different from other folks who are attending the interview. Trust me, whoever is actually coming for Azure 104 interview, they would say that I know how to create virtual machines, I know how to create storage account, I know how to create, because everyone are actually preparing for Azure 104 administration, attending courses probably through online, through offline, whatever basis. Now, the trainer primarily initially has to focus on IAS services because that's a base foundation. Now, if you are not good at that IAS services, we can't scale up to pass. Now, as we go things, pass offerings is something which will be minorly covered compared to the majority of the other rest of the services when we are covering. Uh, so we tend to talk less about pass offerings which we are aware of. But I would encourage here, suppose you're talking about an Azure App Service. Along with it, I would encourage you to have a look at Azure Application Gateway. Along with Azure Application Gateway and Azure App Service, have a look at Azure SQL Database. Now, when you talk about this is services which you have worked on it or have done a POC implementation, and you say that these are the features which are there, which I have tried working on in each service, that makes a lot of sense because you're able to connect the dots in a project point of view. Yes, if there is an Azure App Service, there should be a probable chance of application gateway. If there is an Azure application gateway, there is a probable chance of Azure App Service. Along with it, the application has to communicate with a database. That's why might be have you will be having a database. Now, but chances are good because we are going in a production level. That's what is all about. Now, production level, you see the same virtual machine, but a different kind of features. Like we have encryption methodology set in place for Azure Disk, and we have a specialized images for deploying the virtual machines, and or we say master images. We have backups configured in place. We might be having extensions like anti-malware and everything. So, but end of the day, these are all concepts or features which you can see from an Azure service. So you try seeing it in a smaller section point of view, try to note down some major features and talk about it. When you are going for interview, okay, you can give a better discussion about it. Next thing is, see, if you don't have a content to talk, you will get lot of questions. Try to answer a question for 2 minutes. So this will reduce your number of questions which you can encounter in an interview. That's one jugaad or whatever we can say. The reason is when you could able to answer a question in 2 minutes or 3 minutes or more than that. See, you need to please don't say, "Wait, tell me about a virtual machine." Virtual machine is a machine which can do machine activities. That's not the way to answer. Okay. See, you need to talk about in virtual machine. These are the features which I'm aware. I know how to do a backup. I know how to encrypt a data disk. I know how to take a snapshot. Now I can restore if there is any corruption happens. Now there isn't actually corruption happens. I go to a serial console and I can actually start working on how things are performing. I can take diagnostic settings. I can go and do the monitoring activities. Now there are like extensions. I can do three create using PowerShell. I can actually manage using CLI. I can manage this virtual machine using CLI. I can create a virtual machine using ARM templates. I can create a virtual machine using uh, Terraform. Now, this is what you need to try talking about when you say you know virtual machine. Now, I delivered this message for this question probably in 2 minutes. Now, how do you have to deliver? You deliver it in a decent pace and convey them. That's how it should be. See, because everyone, trust me, everyone who's attending that interview particularly would be giving the mostly the same common jargons like I know how to create a virtual. Please don't do that. Please find out some pass offerings and see how you can able to connect some pass offerings. When you say that you are knowing, you are aware of data factory, please talk about an AI model. Please talk about storage accounts. You could please talk about Power BI. You talk about other data, which is connectors, which are involved for a data factory and all that. Now, that's the whole point. Now, you trying to learn Azure Data Factory and you doing an Azure Kubernetes doesn't make any sense. Okay, you try pursuing one thing and you're able to connect the dots in a very well-fashioned way. Then you pursuing some other domain. That's the way to do it. Now, that's how you can crack an interview. So remember, trying to learn Azure, okay, is different from trying to prepare for an interview. So when you learn for an Azure 104, you learn to understand it. But when you are preparing for an interview, you prepare to talk. You prepare for how do you talk for how do you convey the content. Okay. So that's good enough for an interview. I think I have stressed decent well time for an interview. That's my whole point. Yes, I do. We do believe that there are many ways. Yeah, there are many other ways too, which jugards which I have seen from many people. The other way is people do attend some 6 to 8 interviews or more than that. I've seen people attending 20 interviews. They will note down entire questions which are being asked in an interview and they will prepare on those interview questions and they will attend the next interview. Once you're almost done with like some 5, 10 interviews, you would be having at least some 250 questions in your or 200 questions in your list of interview questions which you have been asked for. And you go through that each interview question and be well prepared about it, you know how to talk about it. There is a very good number of chances that you can crack the next interview which you're into. So that's the best jugaad. So what jugaad we do used to do, we'll do is we'll note down the entire questions, we'll post it in a group, somewhere in a just we'll create a group, WhatsApp group, and we'll post it in there. We'll dump all that questions, and entirely before the we'll start preparing on that, and so at final at the 10th interview or something, we would be well versed with all this. There will be also, while we are taking interviews, some majority will also have some needs and needs breaking, like I don't know how do we implement practically. So these are the major in interview. So while attending the interview, this will also, I don't have experience on Azure and I don't know how I'll be confidently can perform well in an interview. Such cases, you need to actually have some decent, at least 4 to 5 or 5 to 7 practical implementation scenarios. Okay. Now, when I say practical implementation scenarios, you need to understand, you need to have some days. I will address that in the Azure 104 practical implement. How do we prepare for that? Now, you need to have some at least 4 to 5 to 7 because when it's not possible, every interview goes not more than 30 minutes and very less interviews will go for 1 hour. But most of the things will be covered in 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, it's not possible for them to ask like 10 interview questions or 15 interview questions. It's not possible for them to, when if you are following this strategy, it's not possible for them to cover 20 questions in one interview. Okay. And when you're going to talk about pass offerings and you say what you want to, what you have, what features you have known and how do we do that, that's I but that will cover most of your 30 minutes. So it will go well, but you need to know, just remember, you need to know how to you prepare on how you can convey that message. That's the whole point. Okay. So I'll cover this. How do we prepare for 5 to practical scenarios? And you just talk about that That's enough, because in every it's software is not trust me, only the cream level people are not more than some 5% or 10%. The rest we actually tend to do the day-to-day activities, a repeated way of doing things. And so if you are able to just convey some five scenarios, that's good enough. That's good enough to crack the interview. Now, when you prepare for certification, this is a different one. Now there is a right way and there is a jugaad way. I don't say there's a wrong way. There is a jugaad way of cracking a certification. There is a right way of completing a certification. Because when I say right way of certification, you need to really learn. You need to go through documentations and everything. But anyways, let me mix this both, and for the need of our way of completing a certification or a time sensitive bond, you would like to complete a certification, how would you do that, or how do I do that, or how would I recommend here? It's based on uh, see, there are a lot of dumps everywhere. You can find dumps in online for Azure 104. Don't there are many candidates who pay for it. That is not that. Don't to complete a certification, don't do that. Instead, try doing it yourself, and you'll have two attempts and you'll get the confidence. So it's all about your confidence. If you have the confidence that you can crack the certification, you cracked it, then you'll feel that you can go for another, you can pursue another certification very easily. Second thing is, you would be confident that Azure 104 is not really huge, like it's not like a Godzilla or a Goliath. No, it looks something easier to pursue. It would and when you go for an interview, it would be easier if you are given any tasks in Azure 104 administration related activities. You can do things that will build your confidence. So try doing certification by yourself. It is completely fine. Now, how good is having a certification? That's the first thing which I'll address. Now you have some 5 years, 6 years experience, and you are well versed with some very good number of pass offerings and IAS offerings, and you feel you're very confident on that, then you don't need to have a certification. Previously, certification is something which would be counted on. See, certification is counted when there is no uh, supply, okay, in the market. Suppose there's a skill set which has been not so huge in the market. Now, how do we can evaluate? If suppose I'm an interviewer, I wanted to evaluate someone in Azure administration activities. I don't know what is Azure administration. Then I would prefer the guy to have certification, because I don't know how I can test whether he is good or not. So such aspects, when there is in the market, there was something need, and that's where were people were not having that idea. In that time, we need to know about Kubernetes. Now, if you see 2 years back, I seen many people talking about, do you have Kubernetes associate certification, or administration activity certification, or Azure administration certification, or architect certification. Now, I don't see many people talking about that in interview. Do you have the certification? They would ask, see, this gives an edge. Always certification gives an edge. Now they are partially convinced. Now they would like to take call. They would like to take a call that, okay, this candidate can be hired for it, this one. In such cases, we would go for certifications. And also, while selecting for projects needs certain projects, clients would need people to complete their Azure 104 certifications, or whatever domain the project is. There, such cases we need certification. Now, how do you prepare? One is dumps. The easier way is, because the questions would definitely mostly come from DEMS. Okay, it happens. Okay, certain times it will be tougher, but mostly if you prepare for dumps, 95% of chances are there. 98%, 99, 98% of the chances are there that you could be able to uh, score very well in Azure because it's by yourself when you perform, you could be having a good chances of getting more than 850, 850 like that. Trust me with that. Now, when you go for preparing certification, it's all about remembering many concepts. What all concepts are there? So when you go, you can go use some specific. See, Udemy is something very best because it's economical and it can get the job done. So with some around 450 rupees, we would be able to easily complete a certification, preparing very well. But when you wanted to complete a certification, you can, if you are already, how long would it take? If you are not aware of Azure 104, administration, if you are not aware of Azure Cloud, then first initially you need to prepare for Azure 104. That is going to take around 1 month. If you are good enough, you can cover it in 2, 3 weeks. Or it might, if something you are very new to IT industry, software and everything, then going through basics, from basics you coming to Azure administration, that would go for around at least 2 months. And from there, certification preparation is nothing but not more than 1 week. When you say you can go for dumps, me, and you can go through that. That's how you can prepare. I feel that certifications are easily can be completed. Now, without going through dumps also you can do it, but practice questions are always very helpful in terms of where you can find it in the courses itself, or you look for exactly Azure administration or 104 certification dumps in online, you can get it. No, I'm not proposing the easiest solution here, but see, if you want a job get done, no, you just find out everything is found, can be found in online. Please don't rely on people. You can do things by yourself. Okay. Now, how do we prepare for a conceptual knowledge? Now, this is something interesting things which I would bring down here. If you wanted to learn how do we learn one particular service, like how does when you say virtual machine, if someone is not impressed in your interview that you know about your virtual machine and you say about it, they were not impressed, try retrospecting why did it happen and everything. Okay, so my way of preparation, I will show you. Suppose if I go into virtual machines, see, please, though, it's good that you can prepare in the way the courses were actually designed and everything. Along with it, I would also recommend for a self-learning. Okay, so when you open a virtual machine, try seeing in networking what all aspects are there here. Try seeing everything and try understanding what is the need of that particular thing here. Why there is a network interface, attached network interface, detached network interface, why there is a connect and what types of connects are there, SSH, bash, and okay. Now, what is the need of an admin center or what is the need of a disk and what are this? There is one OS disk and there are multiple data disks which we can go for size and which kind of size we go prefer for what reason. Security. Okay, how do we actually go for security center? How would that help in terms of understanding what kind of alerts can be triggered from security centers for a virtual machine? What is the recommendations which you have went through, or read some basic recommendations which can go for, and how you can find it? You can go and Google out what would be the advisor, some basic advisor recommendations for virtual machines in Azure, and you can get it. What kind of extensions? How we can connect continuous delivery. So you try getting to know every aspect in a virtual machine. Now that will cover a decent phase about it. The other way is also going to Google and looking for virtual machine. Now you need to always go for docs now, docs.microsoft.com. That's an official one. See, there are many things related to a virtual machine. These are these are the scenarios, some basic scenarios. So these are small. Now, as you keep going on, you will see you can see some good concepts. Along with it, you can get to know about what all are involved related to networking concepts for a virtual machine, or related to a monitoring concepts related to a virtual machine. How do we maintain and update virtual machines and all that? try having a goal of completing some 40 or 20 pages of such scenario. Try understanding what are all there in that and everything. Now you no need to read end to end about it, but at least try to understand the purpose of what we are trying to achieve. And in that 20 or 30, 40 what you have gone through, try doing some 10 real-time scenarios that will cover your practical implementation knowledge. So here the tip is go through the go to portal and check every feature in a service. The second thing is go through documentation. Now same thing, go through documentation and look for tutorials. When I say go through documentation, docs.microsoft.com is it? So there will be scenarios if you see for a maintenance update. How do we how do we do that? Now you try getting to know what they're trying to do and see it's you can talk about the same scenario. How did you back up multiple VMs? You can tell that this is what I have done. This is how I did multiple backups. This is how I can perform that and everything. So that's very important. You can tell how did you restore a VM which has been corrupted and everything. So try doing this and you can talk as if you have done about it, or you can get to know what kind of practical scenarios could be there. And in production, this would be almost the similar way. Once you're habituated with practical scenarios in each service, some 4, 5 like that, trust me, you can talk like an experienced guy and you can do the same like the way the experienced guy is done in a job and everything related to a short point of view. So that's my suggestions. You can also go here related to blogs. That's the other one which I'll suggest here is go through blogs. Uh, Copy VHD file to Azure blob. Now, when you try doing this, there will be definitely you can see. Suppose there is a blog in IBM documentation. How do we uh, copy an Azure complaint VHD to Azure, creating an Azure image? So they would be giving steps in how to do that. Now you can talk or you can say that this is I am aware of these things. I am aware of uh, how do I create a VHD file, and you can talk about how did we can do other scenarios. So it depends on scenario. This is what I am not sure what he is trying to stress convey here. But in IBM, this one it is trying to talk about one achieving 4 ways. It is giving 4 steps to complete one particular scenario. Now, if you try learning in this way, okay, go through blogs for implementation. That would be great. Okay, that would help. So always when you're preparing, the other tips which I can give you is always play your videos in 1.5x speed or 2x speed, playback speed. There will be a playback speed and you go for 1x, 2x, things will be more easier for you. So I hope this suffice. There is too much info on this. Please, you can always ask questions from the comments. I would love to hear from you, and I'll try answering or I'll come up with another videos regarding that. Thank you.